And welcome to another Nothing Like a Good Book, as with this one, by Fabis. I want to ask you a question. The Soul's Final Judgment. In this particular case, author C.R. Fabis explores morality and the fragility of life. It's an exciting new novel, The Angel and the Amazing Life of Maggie Love. Maggie Love is finally dead, but why did she kill 20 people? That's the question for this angel, some sort of angel. When souls are judged and when a person dies, what will it take for one to repent? So from Colorado author C.R. Fabis, and the C stands for Cal, he weaves a fascinating journey of morality, vigilantism, and the factors that shape one's life in his second novel, The Angel and the Amazing Life of Maggie Love. Welcome, Cal.
Well, thank you for having me. This is going to be great. I look forward to talking about my book.
Yeah, man, it's an interesting front cover. Different, I'll tell you that. It's getting some pretty good, credibility. Grady Harp, who's Amazon top 100 Hall of Fame reviewer, he's given you 5 stars. He doesn't do that easily, but he says, look, it's rich in ambiance, wit, sexual encounters, espionage, and grisly murders. It's an immersive novel that pleads for cinematic expression. That's interesting. Fabis provides a stunning spectrum of characters to accompany this exceptionally fine novel. One of the finest novels of the decade. Wow. What do you think about that?
Wow. When I read that, I couldn't believe it because I know he's a very credible reviewer, and it just blew me away.
Good on you. Okay, Cal, let's dive right into the action. Inspector Lawrence's task is to review the soul of Maggie Love upon her death and ultimately make a case for her repentance. Now, who was this Maggie Love to start with?
Well, Maggie just came to me one night when I was going to bed. I just had an idea about a serial killer named Maggie. And I got up the next morning, I wrote a page or two, and then I just decided to Google images of Maggie. Because, an author has a picture of their character in their head. But I wanted to see, what Maggie really looked like. And at the time, most of the pictures were Maggie from the television show The Walking Dead. There were a lot of those Maggies on there.
Right.
But there was one girl, young woman, and I clicked on her picture and I almost fell out of my chair. Her name was Maggie Love.
Wow.
And I go, that's perfect.
Okay, so this is where the original idea for Maggie's character originated from.
Yes.
Interesting. Very interesting. I've never heard of that before, I got to tell you. That's a first. So, Maggie was a serial killer with over 20 victims and a multitude of false identities, right?
That's right.
Never showing a speck of remorse. Cold-hearted thing, hoping to find the good in her or even, to get her to repent. This Lawrence character makes her relive the murders, then kills her in increasingly painful ways when she refuses. Grizzlies, right?
Yeah. She doesn't care about the pain she has to receive in her afterlife. She's not going to repent because she feels she's justified in every murder she committed.
Okay, so let me ask you in this case, the inspector has never failed a soul. So what is an inspector and how does their role differ from, typical interpretations of angels?
Yeah, most typical angels we think of guardian angels. They help us get through life. If you have a tough time, your angel's there to help you. This inspector angel isn't like that at all. His job is to try to save souls. And Maggie is his toughest case he's had in over 2,000 years. She's killed 20 people and she shows no remorse. So he has to show a counsel in the afterlife that her soul is worth saving. And he's never failed. And one of the quotes he says from the book is, I'm not going to fail this time.
Yeah, well, this is it. I mean, apparently he's never failed a soul, and he won't let Maggie be the first. He's committed himself to that. And he soon finds that the beings in the afterlife, and most importantly, the reader will all be rooting for Maggie Love, from what I can ascertain. What a serial killer with 20 victims under her corset. I mean, how can you be rooting for somebody that's a serial killer?
Well, there's a lot of examples. Maggie's real motive is revenge. Now, we've all seen lots of movies, and the whole plot is simply revenge. And, the hero in the movie kills all these people, but he's justified because the people have done something bad to him. So when I created Maggie, I wanted to make sure she was dealt a really bad deck when she was young, and just bad things happened to her. And that gives her a slight justification to commit all these murders. And I think the reader's going to fall into that, and pretty soon the reader's going to be rooting for her.
Okay, now I get it. Very interesting. Good twist on this one. Cal, how did you determine, what order to relive Maggie's crimes in?
Yeah, that's a tough question, because I didn't really sit down and do an outline. This is going to happen in this chapter, this is going to happen. I didn't do that. It was very spontaneous. And I wanted to do something different because I'm an unknown author. It's my second book, and I wanted something different. So I thought if I wrote it out of sequence, but managed to keep it all together so the reader could understand it, I would have something different. And that's what's kept me going on this book. I know it's different.
Okay, you're not kidding. The interesting cat and mouse plot between her and the inspector, and finding clues in each life iteration as to what will happen to Maggie's soul. This is no doubt going to keep readers turning the pages as they try to guess the outcome of the story. Horror and hardcore mystery fans are going to love this title. And that little accolade is from Catherine Picard, librarian, book, and a connoisseur. That says it all, I think, with the book.
Yeah. And I managed to keep it. When I wrote this thing, I was trying to be more of a reader than a writer. Because if you write something out of sequence and nobody can understand it, it's going to fail. So I had to keep in mind throughout, I had to make sure all the dates were right, the ages were right. I had to make sure that, as she aged, when she was in her older self, the younger characters were the right age. I had to really keep that in mind. And that helps the story make sense through the whole thing, even though it's out of sequence.
But still, how do you justify 20 murders?
I think I'm going to repeat myself here, but I think it's revenge. And
that's it. That's the soul. That's it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Maggie has been dealt a bad deck. Her childhood was terrible. She learned how to kill at a very young age. She commits her first crime at 7 years old. I don't want to give too much of the plot away. Okay.
But it is difficult sometimes to, really promote a book that is very interesting and enjoyable to read. And as we say, is a good book, and but not give it away. It can be difficult. Let me ask you this then: the bliss is inspired by heaven. So, how does your rendition differ from others?
Well, I think they're kind of similar. Heaven is a happy place where everybody lives. But I think most interpretations of heaven are you have some kind of physical part about you. You can touch, you can see, you can feel. But in my bliss, you're just a spirit. You don't have those senses. All your senses come from your soul, and you don't necessarily, in my bliss, have to live forever with your loved ones, because in the bliss, everyone's your loved one. So it doesn't matter who you meet. They're your brothers, your sisters, friends. It's all a perfect community.
Sounds pretty good, actually, doesn't it? Be surrounded by that. Sounds pretty good. So, placing the reader in Lawrence's shoes, as is Inspector Lawrence, this book reveals every side of this lady, Maggie Love, this soul, from her childhood right through to her death, because you were, saying that you had to get the years right. Riveting, fast-paced story. That's the other thing, I guess. When you're writing that, how does one feel momentum as an author? How do you always think of the pacing?
When I wrote this thing, I was in a zone. Like, I don't know. Every thought, I go to bed and I come up with ideas. I'd be able to write them down. It was on my mind all the time. Walking down the street, something else would come to me. And just getting it written down in a logical way where the reader could understand it and enjoy it. And hopefully I have some good humor in there too, that there'll be a few laughs. But mostly I think of it as I was in a zone. It took me 5 months to write.
5 months, interesting. Some take years, don't they, some authors? And others can
Yes,
take
I've heard
time.
that.
I guess you could give a bit of advice there if anybody has ever wanted to write. And they think, that's not right, that's not good enough. They're defeating themselves. If it's coming to you in the head like that, you should get it down, right?
Yeah. Don't second guess yourself too much, and be as spontaneous as possible, because ideas will come to you while you're sitting at your computer. You write a sentence and then something else might hit you.
Now,
And
this,
it might be, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. This, what's called the Inspector Lawrence fellow, his mindset, as he watches each murder take place, the whole 20 of them, over a period of time, ultimately he comes to his conclusion, right, that okay, I know what I need to do, but he leaves space for the readers, me, to decide as well. Is Maggie's soul worth saving?
That's right. The angel doesn't really know if her soul is going to be saved throughout the whole book. He's just trying to do his job and save it. But towards the end, when Maggie's figured a lot of this out, she's asking him, and he just, I don't know. So that suspense goes through the whole book until the very end.
John Kelly of the Detroit Free Press, another critic who's got a great reputation, he says C.R. Fabis has created a fascinating novel with vivid characters and an interesting moral dilemma. At the end, you find yourself rooting for the flawed Maggie and hoping she can find her way. It is the best of roller coaster rides with fear and fun on board for the trip. Highly recommended, says John Kelly. Another great critique there, my friend.
Yeah, I love that. And the Detroit Free Press, I know, is a real respectable publication. So I'm very proud of that.
Folks, this book is available on Amazon, but of course, and the author's website. So get a pen if you, you might be driving right now, but get this down, okay? You can always listen to it again over and over and over, this interview, on all over the place, on your favorite podcast platform or on markbishopmedia.com, where his bio is there, and also his photograph and so on, and also the video of the film on C.R. Fabis, Cal Fabis. But it's on Amazon, and it's also on https, so www.crfabisbooks.com. That's pretty simple. The rest is you'll get, but crfabisbooks.com. A lot of authors today selling directly from, which is a good idea. You can go straight to your website, read all about it, and also purchase if I want to, which is a good idea. Now, I want to ask you this, Cal, in what ways does this book explore the morality of vigilante actions, do you think?
Well, I think, if somebody has a really good reason to be a vigilante and they do it for a good reason, the morality is there. If you see somebody on the street being attacked and you try to stop that, that's a very moral thing to do. Mm-hmm. So Maggie's morals might be a little different than most, but she feels that it's moral to commit all these murders She has a justified reason to do it. And she does it her way every time, and she will not repent.
You do write that the female soul is superior to the male soul. Now, why do you think so, and how does this story back it up?
Well, I love this stat, and I've thought about this a lot, but in the United States, you have to do something pretty bad to end up in prison, right? Now, in the United States, our prison population is 93% males compared to about 7% females. Now, that's got to say something, but I just think in my observations over my life that women are more level-headed, they're less violent, they think things through, and they're easier to get along with. They don't have this macho bullshit going on all the time that, they have to prove something with their strength.
Right.
And so that's why I've always thought that.
Okay, interesting. So what inspired the locations presented in your book? Tell me.
Well, Paris, I'm a former pastry chef, so Paris...
Yes, I was going to touch on that. Don't spoil it for me.
Okay. Yeah, Paris is... I've been there many times, and beautiful city, and I think I was able to capture some of that in the book. Cabo San Lucas in Mexico is
Been to both of these.
Yeah, my favorite vacation spot. I've been there maybe a dozen times. I grew up in Southern California, so I know that area pretty well. And Colorado is where my residence is right now.
Right.
The only place
Yeah, between all of those, there's some pretty good location shots, right?
Yeah, they are. They are. And the only other place in the book I haven't really been to is Washington, D.C. But in that case, you can use the internet.
True.
And scan pictures of it, really put yourself there just by exploring the internet and looking at the pictures and reading about it.
Well, it is interesting. Go on, you were saying.
Yeah, so anyway, that's what I did with Washington, D.C. But I also like to, there's a town in Colorado, a small farming town. It's about 60 miles east of Denver, where Maggie spends a few days of her young life there. And I actually drove out there and just kind of, parked my car, looked around, tried to get an essence of the town, and then was able to put some of that in my book.
Okay. I'm dying to get I haven't been to Colorado. I will one day. I believe it's beautiful and there's a lot to it. You say farmland 60 miles out. One envisions, Colorado to be nothing but mountains,
Yeah, but eastern Colorado it's plains. Yeah, farmland, yeah.
You're a retired chef of all things, who invented thousands of desserts. This is where the imagination comes in for major chains, high-end restaurants, folks, right? And fast food joints as well, but never attending culinary school. See, he must be a past soul. He was a chef or something. Fabis learned his skills from a small bakery in California, and then after moving to Colorado to work as a dessert chef for Stephen Charles, where the company exploded in popularity. But he's now a cartoonist on Instagram and a novelist, publishing, and so on. I can see, when did you start writing?
I wrote my first book in 1995. And I tried to sell it. It was a different world. The internet wasn't really around much. But I tried to sell it to some publishers, and I just gave up.
Was that the one called Rome Never Fell?
No. This was one that I wrote. It's based on, it's unpublished now, but it's based on children's stories I used to tell my kids.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is the hot dog. This is the big one, buddy. This could put you on the map. Big time.
Yeah.
So what do you think makes Maggie such a compelling character?
First of all, she has aliases. She uses wigs, changes her voice. She's not an accomplished actress, but she's an actress. She can change character on a dime. She's been dealt a bad deck, like I said before. So she has justification for these crimes. She thinks everything through. She doesn't just go out and kill somebody. You know, if somebody needs to be killed, she'll do it. And she plans it meticulously so that there's no way the authorities are ever going to catch her.
Okay, so
And they never do.
She's not just a hired assassin, right? Like there's been a couple of terrific movies. I think Salt was one, and something else where, you know, they're brought up from kids trained and programmed to be professional killers, and then they're sent out around the world to get bad people or people who need to be removed. And
No,
it's not a case like
she's
that.
been-
Maggie Love is a private thing. So explain to me how then, I'm trying to understand, without giving the plot away, what gives her the right to kill 20 people? I know you said justification, justify, right?
Yeah.
So obviously bad things happen to her from those people.
Yeah, and it basically comes down to what happened to her parents
Ah, okay. Oh,
when she was,
the plot she thickens.
yeah, what happened to her parents when she was young, and how they were basically committed suicide because they were being chased by these gangs of French mobsters that are chasing them all around the country. And finally, the mother just gives up. And I don't want to go any further than
All right.
that.
That's it. No more. What did you said you liked Paris. Personally, I was sick at the time. I was ill with pneumonia, and I just found Paris to be a dirty city, to be honest with you. I didn't enjoy it at all. But I think if I went there and, you know, in a different frame of mind, and I was fit enough to go up the Seine, I even missed the river trip that I was going to do. But I think, you know, the other side of Paris, it's got to have something. Everybody's in love with Paris, aren't they? You know?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
do you plan to write any more novels at all, Cal? You know, in the future, and what sort of genre, if you do?
I'm working on a family saga right now, which has to do with two different families from two different countries that come together. It covers two generations of these two families. I'll give a little bit of it away. One's from the United States and one's from Mexico. And they eventually come together, and a lot of extraordinary things happen to these two families during two generations of life. So that's what I'm working on right now.
All right. Well, let's worry about this book, and the book is The Angel and the Amazing Life of Maggie Love. I figure it might have been hard for you to name this book.
That's true. I've had several titles. My original title was Maggie's Hell, because she kind of goes through hell with this angel in the beginning. But I just thought that a lot of people, we don't really know what angels are. I mean, but we love them. You know, they're here to help us. They're certainly not evil. And I thought if I put that in the title, and the book's about her life. So that's why I finally came up with this title here.
And to do that, Kel, does one write down all of the different, you know, titles that come to your head? Do you put them down on a pad firstly, and then ponder on them, go back over them, and then cross them off as you go? Or do you mix and match them? Or how do you do that?
I mix and match them, but I do it in my head. I didn't really write down all the titles. I thought, you know, another one I had was My Name is Maggie Love, because she's very forceful about what she's doing. You know, but this is the one I decided on. So,
Well, Grady Harp says it's an ingenious, mesmerizing mystery novel, folks. It's called The Angel and the Amazing Life of Maggie Love. Most unusual, very different. Not what you think it is. Not easy, you know, just to say, oh, I can figure this out. No, you got to get into this one. And the ideal thing is to go to the site. No doubt you can read, all about you want to do, but go to Cal's website. You can even purchase it there or go to Amazon. Right, www.crfabisbooks, FABISBOOKS.com. Fabis Books, CRFabisbooks.com. And it's an interesting read. The accolades were fabulous. I think I read them all for you. Catherine Picard, it's nice to be able to share these in the show because the podcast sticks around for a long time. It's surprising whom you hear from at very later dates. Even 2 years later, I've had, letters or emails from people telling me they just heard it and they want to go buy it or something or other because I've had some terrific authors on. In fact, I've been very fortunate. I had one author on who's done exceptionally well. Hollywood have picked up the rights for his TV series and God knows what. So I wish him well with that. And I think this has got potential. And the reason I do that is because I have a small film company with a couple of partners, and we love making low budget stuff in short films. But we're going to do a couple of hopefully this year, a couple of feature films, 90 minutes or so. And we're not in the Hollywood class of big budgets or anything, but ironically, it's the smaller budget shows that are reaping the rewards at the moment at the theaters. But this I think it does, because we've got locations, we've got thrill in it, we've got a lot of good stuff in the book that would come across visually. Yeah, interesting. So has anybody approached you yet to make maybe a movie out of this?
Not yet. We're still early. We just released it about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
But man, I really appreciate those kind words, and I hope somebody does.
Well, okay. I'll offer it to you right now. I'm first cab off the rank, but you're going to get some heavies. This is what I'm used to. It's America. I'm always outbid. But
Yeah.
if you don't know one comes along, baby, give me a call back, all right? Because I think I'd love to make this. I think it'd be a fantastic movie, all right? And I think it could be made on a very minimal budget too, but still be class, still be quality. All right, my friend, listen, I really hope this thing sells in a big way. I'd love to hear back from you. Let me know how it goes, Cal. And all the best. And folks, go for it. crfabisbooks.com. The Angel and the Amazing Life of Maggie Love. And it's a great book to read. I think it'd be a nice gift too, to be honest. And are you going to do any of these book signings and so on?
I have nothing scheduled, but I'm willing to do that if we could sell a book or two.
Yeah, I think
So,
that'd
Mark,
be
I just want
fabulous.
to,
Yeah.
Mark, I just want to thank you. It was my first interview, and it went really well, in my opinion. So, thank you for what you do.
Yeah, you're most welcome, my friend. You did a good job. And I sincerely hope this book sells well for you. It's come from the heart. Thank you. Nice talking with you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Mark.